Do you find yourself not making the amount of money you want to be making in your business? Do you notice that you've created and turned this into maybe a secret that you are ashamed or embarrassed of talking to others about? If any of this is true for you, I'd like to share a story with you. I grew up mainly in climates that had no seasons. I grew up in Florida, we just had summer year round for the most part. And I then moved to California where the seasons were also non existent in the Bay Area. I now find myself living in Colorado where we do have seasons. And as it were, we have an apple tree in our backyard that began to produce an abundance of apples. I began noticing these apples falling on the ground, and I didn't think much of it. I thought, well, I should probably pick this up at some point, but it wasn't a priority. I ignored these rotting apples on the ground for the most part. And that was until these rotting apples began to attract hornets. It got to the point where it became difficult to step into my backyard because of the amount of hornets that these rotting apples were attracting. And the problems didn't stop there. The hornets then began attracting spiders. And so I began seeing all kinds of spider webs around the tree and around the ground where the hornets and the apples were. So now picking up the apples became difficult. And on top of this, my neighbor began complaining because the hornets made their way to his side of the yard, to his side of the property. So this small little, it wasn't even a problem. It was just picking up a handful of apples. This little seed of a problem turned into this multi-day ordeal of me dealing with all of this. And what I want you to consider is that the same is true about the life problems and the business problems that we face. When we begin to ignore them, when we begin to think that, well, yes, this is an inconvenience. I am hiding. I actually don't feel so great about talking about this. I feel a bit ashamed about this. So let me just avoid thinking about this altogether, and eventually it'll go away. I want to invite you to consider that the small little problems, the small little seeds of problems that we have in our lives eventually grow and multiply. They don't go away. We may think that they go away, but they only attract more and more complications to us. So if the shame and the fear that you might be feeling over talking to someone openly about how things are going in your business, if that's creating difficulty in your ability to relate or connect with others, I promise you that that won't go away. That will only make creating the amount of money you want to create in your business all the more difficult. This notion of hiding what we're ashamed of or hiding what we are fearful of typically stems from the coping strategies we learned growing up as children. Hiding might have been an effective way to avoid the bully at your school, for instance. You're hiding from the fear of encountering the bully or the shame of public humiliation. But this pattern is, although it might have served you growing up, and I know part of this is true for me and for all of us, these patterns persist in our lives with us because we did benefit from them on some level. But right now in your business, they are no longer serving you. Hiding and avoiding connecting with others, even avoiding talking to your family about this, is quite literally keeping you from becoming the type of person you need to become to create the wealth and the prosperity that you are meant to have.